Good evening. This is the work session for Northfield City Council, October 26th of 2021. This meeting was properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231 in the Press of Atlantic City on January 9th of this year. As you may know, in late May, Governor Murphy issued Executive Order 242 related to COVID-19 and which eased restrictions on face coverings in indoor spaces under certain conditions. The order permits employers to impose stricter requirements regarding face coverings in indoor settings, which, in the best interests of our employees and visitors, the City of Northfield opted to do in May and continues to do today. Based on CDC guidelines, the City of Northfield continues to require face coverings and social distancing in our indoor public spaces, and visitors are made aware of this decision with signs at the entrances to the building. Due to these requirements, there are limited seats for in-person attendance by members of the public this evening. This meeting is also being presented simultaneously as a remote public meeting live streamed using Zoom conferencing service and in accordance with the Governor's executive orders and the Open Public Meetings Act. Zoom meeting participants can dial in by telephone and listen to the proceedings, or they can access the meeting using a web browser and be able to view and listen. Instructions on how members of the public could reserve one of the limited seats, as well as how they can access Zoom, have been made available on the municipal website and were published in the Press of Atlantic City. The full text of the public meeting notice has been posted at the entrance to the municipal building and includes Zoom instructions, information on where to find the meeting agenda and relevant documents, as well as instructions on how members of the public could submit comments in advance of tonight's meeting. For those participating via Zoom, all participants will be muted upon entry to the meeting. Web browser participants will not be able to share their screens or see the camera view of anyone other than the host, which is the City of Northfield. Zoom participants wishing to exercise their right to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting should wait until the specific announcement is made to open the public comment period. At this time, one by one, any telephone users will be asked to identify themselves and will be unmuted to permit commentary. For web browser participants, comments or questions may be submitted via the chat function, but will not be acknowledged outside of the designated public comment portion of the meeting. Chat users must also provide his or her name and address for the record in order to be heard. Any written comments submitted in advance of tonight's meeting would be read aloud and addressed during the public comment portion of the meeting, and for this evening, there were none. May I have a flag salute led by Mayor Chow, please?
Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Roll call, Mr. Deweese?
Here.
Mrs. Madden? Here. Mr. Notaro?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Smith? Here. Mr. Utz?
Here.
Mr. Policina? And Mr. Chow.
Here.
Council President Pro Tem Deweese?
Thank you. The committee reports, Councilman Perry.
Thank you, Pro Temp. I'd just like to thank everybody involved with the trunk or treat. Everything was great. Kids had a great time. I think it went off very well. And, congratulations to everybody to put it together. I'd like to recognize the passing of Judge Broom, Henry Bud Broom. He served the community for a great number of years. He helped out and volunteered and supported a lot of groups involved in the community. He had his law practice in town. He was a good friend and just all around great guy. And if you didn't have to be before him, I guess you might think different, but a lot of good memories, and I can still remember coming in, and a couple times I would come into court, and he would have one of his Rottweilers sitting up here with him under the dais. Funny guy. But my condolences to the wife and sons, and the legacy lives on with his two sons. They're great kids, and he did a lot for mainland community, mainland regional, and he'll be sadly missed. Other than that, the slip lining, the engineer will get a report on that. We had a few problems, but everything's just about over, and that project is coming to an end. Other than that, the ACUA has made some progress on the Monday pickup. It seems like it's they must have a crew that they've got on, and they put a dent in it, and hopefully we'll get back on schedule once the leaves start falling. So I have right this moment, Mr. President. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Frank? Councilman Butts?
Okay, well, our city administrator has been diligently working to replace our missing code enforcement, housing and zoning, and has made progress on all fronts, including a creative solution that Linwood has used in the past where the police department takes over code enforcement and allows us to, perchance, hire another officer full-time. Even though this comes at a cost, in the long run, it will save us money. Our electrical inspector is also retiring. We're going to share an electrical inspector with Pleasantville, it looks like. And otherwise, our competent city administrator is filling those gaps as possible. They're hard positions to fill. On the planning board, I wasn't at the last planning board meeting. They approved a couple of minor variances, one for a flag lot on Mill Road, another for a front porch that exceeded its setback a bit. But I did receive a big box this week from the new veterans building that they want to put on Route 9. They have several hurdles, including parking and how they did an extensive traffic study and an extensive groundwater study. But they still have some variances that they're going to need, and we'll have to see if there's adjustments to what they've proposed at this next planning board meeting. I think that's really all I have today.
Thank you, Paul. The Veterans Building, what lot is that? The little tilting windows place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, it's a bit of an irregular lot, which makes parking difficult and some of the setbacks difficult for the size. They want to build a 30,000 square foot facility and 27 feet high. But for instance, they're proposing 108 parking spaces where typically it would require 215. But their counter on that is that many of the veterans come in on buses, that there's free busing provided for the veterans to come to the facility, and that will reduce the amount of traffic, because they also have a left-hand turn in the current plan coming out onto Route 9, which will be difficult between Cedar Bridge and Mill Road there, especially during school hours. So they've got some things to address, but we have a pretty competent planning board, so I have no doubt that these issues will be addressed before. I mean, it's obviously a worthwhile facility. It's not just for Northfield veterans, but veterans all around this area. It's needed, and so we want to see it go forward, but we just want to make sure it doesn't impact negatively on our town.
Thank you. Councilman Notaro.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. First off, I did, I wasn't at Trunk or Treat. I wish I could have been there. I was at the mainland game instead. That's kind of where I am in my point in life with my children. But it seemed like it was a very successful event, and I'd like to thank Mary and Shannon from the clerk's office for all their hard work in putting that together. Also, our Public Works Department, our Police Department, and our Fire Department for their participation in the event. I'd really like to see some more of these events throughout the year. It would be nice to utilize that park a little bit more than we are now. Also, just to reiterate Judge Broom, the passing of Judge Broom. I also was friends with Judge Broom, and I did a lot of work for him. And he was an interesting guy, to say the least. And he was just as hard as on me as some of the people that came before him in our court system. So, I want to recognize that. Also, I had some concerns from a resident on Mill Road over some noise issues. I told her I would make council aware of it from the American Legion Hall. And I spoke to the chief, and I think between the chief and I, we can maybe come up with some resolutions on that before that, spirals out of control, of course. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Anything for Brian?
Can I just ask, the noise from the American Legion Hall?
Yeah, generally on the weekends,
What is it? Is it from people renting the?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
And
thank you.
it gets a little crazy over there.
I understand, thank you.
Thank you. Anything I have tonight is just echo the comments that were said about the trunk or treat. It was a great night. enjoyed myself out there for a couple hours. It's a well-received event, so I want to thank all those that were involved. That's all that I had tonight.
Brian?
Brian,
What about it?
report.
We haven't gotten to him yet.
Oh, what?
What's that, Mayor?
Did you give your report?
Not yet, no.
I didn't think so.
Councilman Smith, it's your
Thank you.
time to give your report.
Not much to report this evening. There was a school board meeting last night I attended. It went pretty quickly. Actually, it was over in about 10, 15 minutes. So they did honor a Miss Quinlan Smith for a Student of the Month, so that drew some applause from yours truly. But other than that, not much to report there. The I also wanted to echo the sentiments for Judge Broom and send the condolences to his family for his years of service and the contributions he's made to our community. I also wanted to highlight another passing that I noticed, that this is a resident from, a longtime resident who moved out of Northfield but was very active in all sports and a lot of volunteering. Applegate passed away, and he was just someone who raised his children here and was very involved, as I said, in the all sports. And I wouldn't send condolences to his family as well. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Louise.
Anything for Brian? Councilwoman Madden?
I attended the library Board of Trustees meeting last Thursday. And I do have the report of the stats for, I'll give you the stats for September and October, because I'm not sure if I did September, and there are some differences in the amounts. The attendance in September is 493, October was 192. Material circulation, September was 1408, October 573. Ebook circulation was 63 and 54 in October. Audiobook circulation September was 58, 38 in October. Fines and fees in September was 189.15, I'm sorry, and 76.33. The discrepancy in the 2 months, because they, been increasing in the last few months, was the library was closed for 2 weeks to do the flooring, so all the books had to be moved. The company that put the flooring in moved the stacks, but all the books had to be moved here and there and back and forth. And the flooring is complete, and it's really very nice. It's a grayish color, looks beautiful. So, and the library staff worked very hard to move all those books. So, so that's the difference, and that's why there's such a difference in the stats. Also, the Manlian School Board meeting. October Students of the Month. 9th grade was Madison Siglin. 10th grade was Vichy, I think they called her nickname, Exantis. 11th grade, Jack Wolkoff, and 12th grade, Cameron Dirks. Special recognition of administrative retirees, Mrs. Joanne Goldberg, Child Study Team Director, Mrs. Yvonne O'Neill, Assistant Vice Principal, and Ms. Carol Austin, the Interact Model UN Club, made a proposal to attend the Model UN Conference in Hershey, Pennsylvania. I believe it's in January. And Mrs. Stephanie Voniak, WIDA Access for L's 2020 test results, gave a presentation. And you can give this to, let's see what happens.
Yep, thank you.
That way Shannon has all the
Yep.
information. Or you do, whoever needs it. And that's all I have.
Councilman,
Anything for Barbara?
I have a question for Councilwoman Madden. With regards to the incident that happened with the COVID, with the boys' football game that had to be canceled, has the school made any kind of new policy or anything to address any of this
I'm unaware of it.
for other
so I-
sports?
I'm unaware of it, so I can't comment on it.
Okay.
What was that, Mayor? What happened on the sports?
Yes, it was the football game that was scheduled last week was canceled, and I heard from a second source that it was due to COVID. And I was just wondering, they shut the whole game down, and I was just wondering with that happening, and my concern is that, with the other sports and activities, is the school taking any kind of a policy procedure to avoiding this or making sure that our students are safe?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
No, I didn't know anything.
Anything else? If not, we'll go on to topics for discussion. United Road Pump Station, update.
The only update I have is we got the bulk sales clearance letter from the state of New Jersey. The application was filed, I'm gonna say a couple weeks ago now. We're just waiting on the planning board to provide us with a date, although I think the date's gonna be December 2nd. Present to the planning board that evening.
Any questions, Randy, regarding that? Northfield Avenue, Route 9 drainage, Ronnie? Northfield. Lease agreement, parking spaces, Jackson and Fay, Tom's been away, so we don't have no update on that. Sump pump discharging into storm drains, any update on that?
I've got some language. I just got to get it to Mary or Shannon to get it to Chris. I don't have it all written up yet, but I do have it. I'll move on it for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Potential acquisition of fire truck.
No update at this time. Same as before, we're waiting for bid specifications and an update from Chief Cummings.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I skipped the stormwater facility shared by the county. Any update on that, Ron?
I haven't got any information from the county yet.
Potential public auction for city-owned properties, block 66, lot 11. I don't really think we talked much about that. did we?
It's right there.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for the response from the planner about habitat.
Okay. Oh, should have read the second line.
It's okay.
The business-friendly changes to sign ordinance. We don't have any update on that,
Nothing
right?
new.
I think at the last meeting, people were supposed to send recommendations to Tom. So if since he's not here, we'll ask him at the next meeting.
Work session topics for discussion. New business, standing items,
Mr. Dewey,
grant opportunities. I'm sorry.
about the old and new business, could we get a little bit of an update on the situation on the cannabis proposal and when we can move forward on it?
Sure.
Could you update us, please?
Sure. So some of you, or all of you, quite frankly, should have gotten an email from a woman in Linwood who's interested in opening up a retail business in Northfield. She has framed it as an upscale retail cannabis shop offering strains that haven't been seen in many years. She's quite excited about it. I think it's going to be a woman and minority-owned business, and the Cannabis Regulatory Commission is giving special licensing to small businesses, especially women-owned, minority-owned, or disabled veteran businesses. And the application process begins on November 9th, and she would like to be in on that application process on November 9th with being able to put down that Northfield is acceptable to retail cannabis, which of course currently we are not. I have forwarded parameters of what I think retail cannabis should look like in our regional commercial zone to both Tom Palestina and Frank Perry. Frank has said he's a go with it. I have not heard from Tom, I guess, who's on vacation now. But my hope is to have a draft ordinance next meeting. I also CC'd Chris on that, right? You got that?
Yes,
correct?
I got that.
And included the Egg Harbor Township ordinance, which lines up, I think, pretty well with what we could do here in Northfield. So, so time is of the essence,
Yes.
as these small businesses, and I'm sure she's not the only one, want to get in line early on November 9th. And she estimated that this business could produce as much as $15,000 per month in revenue for the city of Northfield. I think that's probably an overly ambitious estimate. I don't know what 15,000 is 2% of. I didn't work it backwards, but it would seem like a fairly. What's that? Yeah, be a lot of herbs sold. But the clock is ticking. So it's important that you all give this some consideration. We'll hopefully have a draft ordinance next meeting, and I want your input as quickly as possible so we can move forward with introducing and going through the process of deciding whether this town is going to reap the revenue from legal cannabis or not.
Because if we don't move, we lose out.
That's right, that's right.
So, yeah,
And
that's
because,
not
again,
correct.
the line is forming, and they are, the regulatory commission's gonna have their hands full. And the sooner that someone like this, who had me on the phone for some time, can get these applications in, then the quicker they can get started with producing revenue for Northfield.
Yeah, yeah, I think this attitude that we have all the time in the world is a bad way. We have to
Yeah,
really jump on
no,
this.
and there are still some things we need to consider. Are we gonna allow cultivation along Tilton Road? A small, what they call vertically integrated, where they have a small grow operation, they process it, they package it, they sell it retail. It's a completely different ball of wax. This woman went on and on about how they have odor control methods, and they're talking with a company in Colorado that, I don't know that this is for Northfield. And, certainly we'll be bringing it up with the Planning and Zoning Board. Cultivation may not be our thing. But some of these operations pride themselves in doing everything in-house and delivering a product that they know to be safe and pure. So it's something we should certainly consider. They also would have a higher licensing fee. The number being bandied about is $10,000 for a larger vertically integrated operation, whereas a smaller operation, you're looking at $2,500. So please keep this in mind. Keep in mind how many shops you think our town could support or is willing to accept, and what types of businesses we're willing to accept, because it'll be on your, hopefully, it'll be here next meeting.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I actually do. This attitude of we have all the time in the world, I don't think that was the attitude at all. I think the attitude was, let's pump the brakes and get the ordinance right. And, quite frankly, if the ordinance was right to begin with, we wouldn't be in this situation we are. So, that attitude of, I don't feel that that's correct, so. And
I think that's a
Paul,
val-
you did a great job.
I think that's a valid point.
With yeah, it's very valid.
We want to get it right.
And I think you changing the tune and getting it right is what's right for the town.
Yeah.
So,
Very good.
thank you.
Council President, I hope that everyone received and have read my email that I sent out, I believe today, with regards to Hopewell Township on their ordinance that they had made up, rather extensive, with regards to the sale of cannabis. So it was just for your food for input, for you to review, and maybe even take some suggestions from it as far as if council wishes to move forward on an ordinance, some of the things that you might want to include. Hopewell Township was just brought out at one of my webinars that I attended, that they thought it was a rather outstanding, very complete and thorough ordinance that they had made.
Well, that ordinance, Mr. Mayor, was, they have excluded everything but cultivation.
that's
Because
true.
they consider themselves a farming community, they're looking for a 50-acre outdoor cannabis farm, only one. And so it was pretty restrictive in that regard, and that was strictly for cultivation.
Yeah, and I understand that, but just something as another sample ordinance out there that other municipalities are dealing with the cannabis sale. And I brought that up as far as, although I did not feel it would affect us, but just the cross-pollination concept there.
Well, I know Mr. Facenda has a couple other ordinances in his computer that hopefully he'll draw from the various ordinances and get something that works for Northfield, that benefits both the town, protects our citizens, and allows this business to thrive and be profitable.
Mr. Utz, to that end, the committee was formed. I got your email, and I hear tonight that Mr. Perry's in agreement with your email, which is fine. I have not heard from Mr. Palestina. Does the committee intend to present its ideas to council at the next meeting?
Hopefully. Now,
Or am I just, my problem is, I don't know what to draft. In other words,
right,
you guys can make, the committee can certainly make a recommendation.
right.
Does the council as a whole discuss that recommendation before I draft, or am I drafting for the next meeting? That's part of my problem.
So I haven't heard from Tom, and I don't know when Tom is back. And I sent him the same email you got and that Frank got. So I haven't heard back from him yet, but I certainly am anxiously awaiting to see if he is in agreement with what I've presented. If he is, then probably yes, a draft before this body, and quite frankly, planning board could put the kibosh on cultivation, needs to line up. We need the stars to align in order to get this thing through. So what I'm hopeful for, Mr. Facenda, is that next meeting we'll have a draft at least
fine.
not an introduced ordinance, but at least a draft in line, so that this one business owner at least can say, yes, Northfield is moving forward with allowing this, and she can go ahead and submit her licensing application.
Very good, thank you.
Anything else?
If this person puts on their application Northfield, and let's just say it never happens in Northfield, hypothetically, can they change that? I mean, can they go to another town? I mean, or is it stuck, are they stuck with Northfield once they?
Well, if
get-
Northfield prohibits it, she can amend the application to go to
to
another
go to
town.
ano- Yeah, right, okay.
Now, but
So it's
she's
not-
got-
We're not hinging on her, getting her.
Right, although,
You have to start at the back of the line. So this is you.
Excuse me, we're not open to, excuse me, we're not open to the public yet.
it delays her process.
Excuse me,
Wait, wait.
Sorry.
we're not open to the public yet, so we can't.
Okay. It certainly delays her process, which, of course, as I said before, in businesses, there are no secrets, just head starts. She'd like that head start, and I don't blame her. But she's got other hurdles. I mean, this is a pretty extensive regulatory vetting, and, getting approval from Northfield is just one hurdle that she's got to face.
Okay? Anything else? Good.
I noticed that there was another tobacco head shop near Rose's Garden Grill in the same complex, right in a public neighborhood business. So, they got hookahs up on the sign and advertised. I had thought that the name, not the product, was supposed to be on the facade, but, I went to the bank the other day and I go down Oakcrest Avenue and there's this, hookah sign and all that, so. Yeah.
Tobacco is a permitted use in the CB zone.
So, but it's another shop that's gonna cater to the amenities that, not a license in that zone, but, community businesses right in a regular neighborhood.
There are other auxiliary businesses, especially if we allow cultivation, electricians, plumbers, contractors. It'll certainly improve, infrastructure in our commercial zone and therefore ratables, in addition to whatever the actual sales of cannabis bring in.
Well, it
So-
seems like it's a COVID-proof business if they're opening up, It's seems like that's where the market is emerging growth industry.
Yeah, and I think it'll also spurn other development along that Tilton Road corridor.
Well, obviously, it's done it right on Route 9.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, since it's come up, I would wonder if anyone has was able to read the opinion in the Atlantic City Press editorial page of October 17th. Right, obviously, my view has been consistent this whole time with this. The headline says, "Overhaul New Jersey cannabis law before harm hits." And it's interesting how we talk about following the science a lot of times these days. But here we have warnings from the Centers for Disease Control, the National Academies of Science, and this is quoted in the opinion piece, the directors of adolescent medicine and addiction medicine at Johns Hopkins and Harvard Medical Schools, all urging senators proposing legalization to change course in view of the damages already evident in marijuana industry states. They warn about the trends in states that have legalized marijuana, starting with industry production and marketing of candies, vaping oils, and concentrates of extremely high potency. The use of concentrated marijuana by high school students in Colorado, among the first to legalize the drug, has increased 138% since 2015. In the past 4 years, liquid marijuana use has increased 5-fold, and vaping, it has doubled. With such ultra-potent forms of the drug being promoted by the industry, calls to poison centers for marijuana exposure rose 112% after legalization in Colorado, and 140% in Massachusetts. The harms are still growing. Use by Colorado children under 15 has increased 15% the past 2 years, and 20% or more in California, Nevada, and Oregon, according to federal data. On the highways, traffic fatalities in which drivers tested positive for marijuana have doubled since legalization in Colorado and Washington. I'll just skip to the last sentence of this, the last paragraph of this editorial. It says he and his state-level counterparts should heed the serious warnings from the nation's most respected experts on the issue. Here we are talking about $15,000 potentially per month. And we are not, it boggles my mind that we are so irresponsible to think that this won't impact our youth, that we're willing to sacrifice our children for a few dollars. It boggles my mind that we would go against the health experts, that we go against law enforcement experts, our own law enforcement officials who recommend against it, that they're moved forward with this and they don't have any controls. It boggles my mind that serious people consider this. I don't want it. It shouldn't be in Northfield. And I am appalled that we continue to bandy this about. That's all I have, sir.
Well, that's some good information, Brian. I think it's something that we all should consider. And, you know, here we're not following the science there, but we're, you know, following the science wearing masks 6 feet apart from each other at a council meeting. And, you know, that seems a little ridiculous. So I appreciate that information.
Well, these discussions are healthy and they're, you know, ones that we have to have, so I appreciate everyone's being fair about it.
Mr. Smith, one thing that's an editorial, it's an opinion. Marijuana use is for people 21 and over, that's the regulations, and they're strictly regulated. And quite frankly, we have vaping in, I know in the high school and in middle schools too.
And it's a problem.
It
That's
is
the
a
point.
problem,
It's
yeah.
a problem.
But
It's a
that's
public
legal.
health
But
concern.
that's legal. We have youngsters drinking alcohol, that's legal. We have youngsters smoking, that's legal.
So we're going to
Well,
make two
marijuana's
harms
legal
make it a
now,
right?
too.
So you're saying that, okay, we can do it with alcohol, kids drink alcohol, so let's do it with marijuana too. Let's double down on this. It doesn't make any sense.
This is not for children.
You're right, it's not for children, but the stats bear out the fact that children believe once they see it's legalized, it's okay for them to do too.
That's a true statement.
That's why you
That's
have
why with the
alliance
alcohol is-
and drug programs for
Yeah,
sobriety.
that's right,
That's
parental-
why you have to educate your children
Yes.
in schools and tell them that's the only way they're gonna stop and not be looking at doing it.
That's not working in Colorado and Washington and California and these other states that have legalized it. New Jersey's going to get it right? Good luck
Hey,
with that.
you know, sports betting is off the hook, you know, over $1 billion, gambling.
What's that
and
have to do with cannabis?
It's a regulated
Vice.
industry that the illegal market was doing. Now this makes it the business of government. I'm sorry if you feel that way, but this is the business of government.
You're okay with these stats?
I can't dispute them. I don't know how they were.
Assuming they're okay, are you okay with that? Are you okay with a 138% increase?
How do you know that before that they didn't take any increases or take any stats prior to that? How do they know that now that it's legal, that, you know, that they're controlling what is there, so that's what it is? It's an editorial,
Yeah,
you
it's an
know?
opinion.
Based on
Smoking
based on
anything,
scientific,
drinking anything
based
is
on
not healthy.
scientific and federal data.
This
It's
is
not
what-
coming out of thin
That's why we
air.
educate our youth.
Yeah, I work in education. Good luck with that.
Well,
Health's on you.
Okay,
It's on me. It's not on
Thank
me
you all
if
for
this
that.
if this passes.
I guess we never
It's on you.
got to the standing new grant items. Anything with that? Any updates on that? I don't think so.
We have one on the agenda tonight for the fire department.
Just was pointing out that there's one on the agenda for the fire department. All right, review the regular agenda. Take your agendas out, please.
I'm sorry, Mr. Deweese, did we have any update on the corner lot here on Shore and Dolphin?
Yeah, Mary,
Do we have?
Yeah.
I don't have
The
it-
property.
Anything on there? Who was looking? was you
Mary
looking
has
into
been-
that, or is it?
she's waiting for Habitat for Humanity to get back to her.
I think
Okay.
we were
I
talking
can
about
fill you in on
earlier.
that.
Okay, thank you.
You good, Ron?
Yes, thank you.
Approval of the minutes. Mr. Utz and Mrs. Madden. Resolutions, couple things, make sure I get this right, would you please, Mary, 180 is gonna be taken out, that's not necessary for tonight. Am I correct with that?
Correct.
Yes.
Has everyone looked at the information I provided about Resolution 184, the policy manual? Because if everyone is good with that, then it can be part of the consent agenda, and Resolution 183 would not be necessary. Is that correct?
That's correct, if everybody's good with 184.
If everyone was good with 184,
I'd like to see the final document once we get it, though.
I emailed it out to council with the agenda.
I'm sorry, I missed that attachment, I'm sorry. All right, that's good.
so, I mean, if you have a question, we'll vote on it separately, but otherwise it could be.
No, I would have read it ahead of time, but,
Do you want,
no, I have,
He wants the whole manual.
the whole manual. That's fine.
that
Both go
takes-
separately?
No, it was sent to us electronically, then I'll look at it.
I'm going to try and forward it again to you right now.
I can't get it by my phone, Mary,
Okay.
sorry.
So you want us to pull us and do it separate?
No, we're good.
It's only 200 pages.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we can get through that.
Did you want to speak on it, Mary, about, okay.
No, I'm sorry, I thought I opened them all, but I guess I didn't, that one.
Like I say, if you want, we'll pull it, we'll do it separately, Frank. It's up to
No,
you.
It's not
I
gonna help
saw
him
the
'cause he
bullet
didn't read
points.
Oh, okay.
No, I saw the bullet
All
points.
right, so.
I'm good,
So do we need the executive or no?
no, I don't.
No,
So that's 183 is out.
183 is out. 185 and 186 are out as well. We did not get the updated information from GWU. I think that's it, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Having said all that, resolutions be Frank and, I'm sorry, Councilman Perry and Councilman Notara. Ordinance 11, to Councilman Smith and Councilman Utz. Payment of bills to Councilwoman Madden and Councilman Perry. Meeting notices, Councilman Notara. We are now open to the public. Please state your name, observe 5 minutes. First speaker. Anyone from the public wish to speak?
Hi, my name is Kim Batash. Did you say spell my name?
I didn't,
Oh, okay, all right, I'm sorry.
but it'd be helpful.
Marilyn Halster. So on the topic of cannabis,
Address, please.
1 and 2 South Iroquois, Margate, my business is at 801 Tilton Road, Northfield. I just came back from the largest national marijuana business conference for Amsterdam. What I think that might be a good idea, and I'm not the cultivator, I know I'm not a farmer, I wouldn't be good at that, I'm a very good retailer and educator. What might be a solve for your committees here is to put out ordinances based on the type of license. Because right now the CRC has not really delved into distribution or delivery. So you might want to do one ordinance for cultivation, one for retail, and that way you can really attack each one. And if something changes, you're not redoing your whole ordinance. Of course, I'm not telling you how to do your jobs. I thought just piecemealing it might allow you to investigate and look at each side of it. What I can tell you is that there are extensive compliance organizations and procedures out there that if you follow up through and read the CRC, what they have put out currently, every company is out there screaming compliance, 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 because they want, I want to say transparency. I would recommend that you guys hire an auditor to make sure you're getting taxes, or, you know, have that in place. I think that if you're going to do it, make sure you're going to get what you're supposed to. And that's it. But I'm not,
Thank you.
I think the carbon scrubbers though, are not what they need to be for, for where I'm at. I have issues with the carbon scrubbers not being, what they can be is set based on square footage, based on X number of ants at a certain age. But if a grow facility, because I've been in them, and I don't smoke, by the way, I do not, but I do believe in it for medical purposes, and even for some people who are maybe not diagnosed, okay? But, so these carbon scrubbers, once your facility is at full capacity and you're at harvest, they're not always, and if you don't replace those, you know, the carbon, we're gonna smell it. I'm not about, I have kids, I don't want my kids, you know, but my kids.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone in Zoom waiting?
Nobody in Zoom, sir.
Give it a couple more minutes, or we,
No, nobody's even, there's a lot of people there, but nobody.
seeing none, we're going to close the, this portion of the meeting, public session. A motion to adjourn.
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Nice.
Let me take that.
I'll make a copy. Absolutely.
Good evening, this is the regular session, Northfield City Council, October 26th of 2021. This meeting was properly advertised in accordance with Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, in the Press of Atlantic City on January 9th of this year. In late May, Governor Murphy issued Executive Order 242 related to COVID-19 and which eased restrictions on face coverings in indoor public spaces under certain conditions. The order permits employers to impose stricter requirements regarding face coverings in indoor settings, which in the best interests of our employees and visitors, the City of Northfield opted to do in May and continues to do today. Based on these guidelines, the city continues to require face coverings and social distancing in our indoor public spaces, and visitors are made aware of this decision with signs at the entrances to the building. Due to these requirements, there are limited seats for in-person attendance by members of the public this evening. This meeting is also being presented simultaneously as a remote public meeting live streamed using Zoom conferencing service and in accordance with the governor's executive orders and the Open Public Meetings Act. Zoom meeting participants can dial in by telephone and listen to the proceedings, or they can access the meeting using a web browser and be able to view and listen. Instructions on how members of the public could reserve one of the limited seats, as well as how they can access Zoom, have been made available on the municipal website and were published in the Press of Atlantic City. The full text of the public meeting notice has been posted at the entrance to the municipal building and includes Zoom instructions, information on where to find the meeting agenda and relevant documents, as well as instructions on how members of the public could submit questions or comments in advance of tonight's meeting. For those participating via Zoom, all participants will be muted upon entry to the meeting. Web browser participants will not be able to share their screens or see the camera view of anyone other than the host, which is the City of Northfield. Zoom participants wishing to exercise their right to participate during the public comment portion of the meeting should wait until the specific announcement is made to open the public comment period. At this time, one by one, any telephone users will be asked to identify themselves and will be unmuted to permit commentary. For web browser participants, comments or questions may be submitted via the chat function, but will not be acknowledged outside of the designated public comment portion of the meeting. Chat users must also provide his or her name and address for the record in order to be heard. And any written comments submitted in advance would be read aloud and addressed during the public comment portion of the meeting, and for today there were none. May I have a flag salute led by Mayor Chow, please?
Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'll ask for a moment of silence to send our condolences and respect to the passing of a longtime employee, Judge Buddy Broom, also a community advocate, and also advocate who is well-known and well-noted for his activities and volunteerism for the city of Northfield. Thank you.
Roll call, Mr. Deweese?
Here.
Mrs. Madden?
Here.
Mr. Notaro?
Here.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Utz?
Here.
Mr. Palestina? Mr. Chow?
Here.
And Council President Pro Dem Deweese?
Thank you. Approval of minutes, please?
I'd like to make a motion that we dispense with the reading of the minutes that have been posted at our municipal office and are available online, and approve them without full reading.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mayor's report.
Thank you, Council Pro Tem. First of all, again, I would like to echo what everyone has stated about the trunk or treat. It was very successful, and it was a great idea to have it in the parking grounds, camping grounds, and had electricity and so forth, because I really needed a lot of electricity to run my event. But moving forward here, I do want to thank all the individuals that were responsible. Obviously, the police department, the public works, the fire department, and especially Shannon Campbell, our deputy clerk, who did an outstanding job and organized it. So kudos and shout out to all those individuals and everyone that volunteered. It was a great community effort, and I know everyone that I spoke to thoroughly enjoyed it and is looking forward to next year for bigger and better things that we're going to do for our trunk or treat there at Birch Grove. With regards to the passing of Buddy Broom, Buddy, for those of you who have ever had the opportunity of knowing, he was a character. I'll just give you one antidote. He would always invite you, come over and go out for lunch. And so one time I went there to his office, ready to go for lunch, and I was sitting there talking. I guess, with all due respect to our solicitor here, he had this little clock, this time clock. And as soon as I sat down and we started talking, he punched the button on the clock. He was recording how much time I was taking because he was going to charge the city while I was sitting there talking to him about going out for lunch. So he was a character. He was certainly a character and a true friend for the city and responsibility for serving as a judge.
Can you get me that clock?
You all received an email that I received from Mr. Steve Head, and I'm not asking for a response, but something to think about if you want to go forward. Mr. Head had once, and he's gotten permission from, and the go-ahead from the city of Pleasantville to build on the bike path some type of a memorial wall or fence towards our veterans and their families and any other individuals involved in defending our country. I asked him today, I said, well, where are you going to get the funding for this project that you want to do in both Pleasantville as well as Northfield? And he said he would solicit from local businesses because he is tax exempt. I don't know if this is something that you want, but he certainly made an artist rendition that he sent me that I also passed on to you, and something to think about if you want to do something. It would be, his proposal right now is to have a sporadic placement of these walls along our bike path. I don't know if you would like something like that, but it's just something for you to consider because he approached me on that. As I said, Pleasantville has already given him the go-ahead or the endorsement, so I don't know where it's going to go with regards to Pleasantville. Planning Board, as Mr. Utz pointed out, the Department of Defensive Affairs and Atlantic County Community-Based Outpatient Clinic has a variance, or seeking variances. They are seeking a D variance, which means unfortunately Mr. Utz and I can't participate, but I can tell you that, and we did talk about, Mr. Perry had brought it up months ago, about rumors that he heard that there was something that was in the planning stage. So I had made a recommendation to the individual who owns the property and the project to make application towards a plan, which they've done. So as Mr. Utz pointed out, there's a lot of hurdles that they're going to have to amend and address to our planning board needs and desires. So hopefully it's something that will come about. Their plan is, to get out of the current building that they're currently using and move into this new one facility. This individual project manager had built a similar one down in Cape May. It looks very impressive and very nice, so it would be a wonderful thing. In addition, just hopefully they conform to all the needs that we have apply there. We do have a police grievance on level 3. The police committee, Mr. Policina, Mr. Utz, and Mr. Deweese will be meeting with our city labor attorney to set up a date to meet with them and to discuss at the level 3 grievance itself. I believe that's it. Thank you very much, Council President Pro Tem.
Any questions or comments for the mayor? Seeing none, engineers report, please.
Thank you, Councilman Reed. I prepared my report last week. There's two items I'd like to discuss. 2021 local road program. We received a concurrence from the state for the award of the project. And we set up pre-construction meetings for the 9th. So we can move forward and get everything lined up to get some of the work started now and to be able to pave it in this spring because we're not going to pave it this year. So we'll widen the road, we'll prep everything. Come spring, we'll be paving the road so we can get that project done. The second project is the slip lining. Slip lining has been completed as of last Friday. We ran into quite a few issues. Couple lines did not heal well, so they fixed one of them, which was between Maple and Route 9. We finished the geopiping, the final product. We found another problem between Maple and Tilton. They have to come back and fix it, which is a simple fix, but it takes time and actual aggravation for the contractor, but it's something he has to fix it. The police helped us out a lot with the traffic control, and what Chief limited is by him helping out with the police officers and traffic control for a few days, 4 nights and 2 days during the day. I looked at the number, we saved about $50,000 in traffic control. If we had hired, if we asked the contractor to provide the traffic control, all the costs would have been over $10,000 a day. So I really appreciate what the police chief did. I know it wasn't convenient for the police department, but they did a great job. Just want to say thank you. That's my report.
Council
Anybody have
President,
questions or
yes, I have a
comments
question.
for the engineer?
I'm just curious, from an engineering standpoint, how did we detect that we had a problem going on at that, with all this slip line and with the piping?
The slip lining was determined on the deep sewer lines. These sewer lines are about 18 to 20 foot deep in the ground. And when we've done some video piping about 2 years ago, we realized that some of these lines, there's some hairline cracks, there's some infiltration, and that was shown. And also when, in the past couple of years, when you drive down Roosevelt, closer to Route 9, you'll see there's bumps in the road.
Mm-hmm.
That's indication that there's breakage in the line, and the groundwater is infiltrating the line and causing some kind of settlement. So that's the indication we have. And we ran into a major problem in that location. We were not able to push the line through. They had to try it twice. And the second time, they broke one of the parts for the machine, so they had to get Public Works to come and help. And Mike Adamson came out and helped us a lot, helped the crew a lot. Even they're trying to do the trunk and tree, but he stepped up and came up and helped. So those lines, when we slip line, basically we put another line inside the existing line. And now the infiltration won't be coming in. And when we start doing the work at night, you can see clearly there's a lot of groundwater was infiltrating these lines. They're terracotta pipes, and anytime you have a hairline crack or a joint that settled or moved, that's where the water starts coming in. The amount of sand they were pulling from that line was tremendous. They cleaned the line, 10 days later they went out and started didn't clean it. They had about 2.5 inches of sand in the pipe. So we're able to take care of that. So basically at this point, from Deborah by Little Italy, the line is, the sewer line from that point to the pump station, it's all lined up. All the deep lines have been slip lined. We had a couple areas down on Second between Roosevelt and Jackson and Fairbanks. We slip lined that too because you can see the street, there's some line that also. And there's an easement, we have down further from Revere to, I think Revere to Oakcrest and Vernon, that area. We have a sewer line next to the meadows, that's also deep. We slip line that portion also because there's a lot of filtration into it, so. For the money we spend on infiltration, to slip line, we did about 4,500 linear feet. If you have to replace those lines, would have been probably, probably $1.5 million.
Yeah, to rip out the street, the entire street, yeah.
So it's really a great thing to do to preserve our line. These slip lines prolong the life of the line for at least 50 years.
Mhm.
How often do you have to slip line these?
Now, these lines don't have to slip, they're done.
For how long?
What we have to do, I think, in discussion with the Councilman Barry, we should come up with the budget every year and we
Do more?
So we don't have to get hit with a large amount of money to do this. We can put small portion every year and slip line certain sections. Over the years, we'll preserve the system.
So, I'm assuming nothing lasts forever, but how long do they,
Minimum 50 years.
50 years to slip line?
The slip line,
Okay.
basically, it's, what they do is, it's like a double sock, goes into the pipe, and there's a resident inside between the layers. And they push water through it, and the water pressure will take the shape of the pipe.
Mhm.
And then we heat the water to 190 degrees for about 2 to 3 hours, it depends on the length of the pipe. And then we cool it down little by little. After hour and a half of cooling down, everything is fine. That line, portion of the pipe, if you step on it, you won't even break.
And this will also reduce, with groundwater intrusion, this will reduce our flows, correct?
Correct, because now we are treating groundwater. So, and it was very visible when we did the work, that a lot of groundwater was coming through these lines. So now this would reduce our flow into the Atlantic County.
Saving us more.
We should save money.
I think he makes a good point where we put up a maintenance schedule where we're doing this on an annual basis, so it's not hitting our budget all at once, but that we stop getting this groundwater intrusion and protect these lines without any street problems.
Absolutely.
That's something we should work into.
Thank
Well,
you.
These are interceptor lines that they're working on too, and these are the ones that are the deepest. So that's where we know where the water table would infiltrate. But the asset management plan that we did had a lot to do with this also, to look at these problems. That report is still pending too, in the final outcome of the asset management plan.
But the deep sewer lines is the one we have to
Yep.
pay attention to, because if you recall, about 2 years ago, we had the line broke in Burton and Tilton. It was a section that's 8 feet long, just cracked. We had to spend $40,000 for a contractor to come out in one day to fix that. Just imagine, this would solve these issues.
And we have more of these deep pipes in the city that have not been addressed.
Yeah, this is a real deep section where this takes like a quarter of the whole town, all the all the commercial area, Tilton Village. It's a large capacity area. You know, it comes up all the way into New Road, and it's a massive amount of volume that comes through there.
Davis Avenue take 1/3 of the town,
Yep.
low lines.
So this is our heavy hitter line here.
Good.
Anything else? Seeing none, moving along, this meeting is now open to the public. For anyone wants to speak on any subject, please state your name and address for the record and observe 5 minutes per speaker.
I do have someone in Zoom. Mr. Bill Gary, 202 St. James Place, has said, at what stage is the repairs to the property that was damaged during the resurfacing of Pine Avenue? My driveway apron, which was damaged in the process of resurfacing, is still not repaired. Is there some time estimate when these repairs will be made?
I contacted the contractor because he did majority of the work. There's a couple more driveways have to be done, and this is one of them. So he said he would do it sometime in October. That didn't happen, so I'll reach out to him tomorrow and get that. Just a couple more driveways have to be done. That's it.
Can we get some sort of a time frame? Because, you know,
The fix is simple. I mean, they just scratch it, so they have to come out. So I'll call the contractor in the morning and make sure he gets it done.
Thank you.
Mr. Gary, did you understand that reply? Okay, the gentleman said, could someone please repeat what was said because the engineer could not be heard? You want to try again, Rami, and,
Yeah, can you guys hear me? I will call the contractor tomorrow and be sure he gets this done by the end of next week.
Mr. Gary, did you get that? He said yes, thank you.
Anyone else?
Hold on one second, I'm just catching up.
Okay.
Good. You want to give it one last?
Anyone else wishing to speak?
No, I think you're good.
Seeing no one else wishing to speak, we will close the public session. Resolutions. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and having been reviewed by council will be enacted by one motion. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any council member. If so removed, will be treated as a separate matter. All items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds. We have executive session, right? I have a motion for resolutions, please.
Mr. President, I'd like to pull 178, 2021 separately.
Okay.
And just for clarification, 183, 185, and 186 are pulled in 184.
185, 186, and 183 are not necessary.
And 180.
And 180, correct.
So the consent agenda is 176, 77, 79, 81, 82, 84.
Is it 175?
No. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My paper was folded.
So it's 175 through 177, 179, 181, and 182, correct? And 184. And 184.
Okay,
Got that, Frank?
I'm going to give it a try. Just correct me if I stray off course here. All right, I'd like to make necessary motion for consent agenda for 175, 2021 through 177, 21, 179, 21, 181, 2021 to 182, 21, and 184, 2021.
Correct.
That's it. Second.
Any questions or comments, right? Any questions? Any questions or comments? Seeing none? Roll call?
All in favor of voting by consent agenda on resolutions 175, 176, 177, 179, 181, 182, and 184?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Make the necessary motion to adopt resolution 175 to 175, 2021 to 177, 21, 179, 2020, 21, 181 to 2021 to 182, 2021, and 184 to 2021.
Correct.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mrs. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz?
Yes.
Motion carries for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Make
And a motion
the,
for 178, 2021.
make the necessary motion to adopt 178, 2021.
Second.
Questions or comments?
It gives you the price, but, I mean, it gives you the company and everything, but it doesn't give you the price.
I think 44,000.
It's in there. It's in there.
But nothing
It's in
else,
the- It's
I'm
in
told
the
it's in there, Frank.
It is
resolution,
in
isn't
there.
it?
but no specs.
It's over 44,000.
All right, thank you.
It isn't in here.
Okay.
Frank, I believe they came in under budget on that as well.
Yeah, I just have a hard time
Yeah.
with something that's not used 24/7 and, you know, we have another piece of equipment that's out there that's still functional, the pickup truck, and what's gonna be the outcome of that? I mean, are we still using that or is it gonna be cycled down into the road department?
From what I understand, they're going to have two vehicles, the current one and this new one.
Oh, okay. All right,
Now, this vehicle stay on site at City Hall? This new one?
That would be the mayor. Can you answer that about the assignments of the new vehicles?
I have not received any input from them on this yet. I think they were waiting to see if this was going to be approved. But one of my concerns, and I agree, you know, where this vehicle is going to be parked, I don't want it to be seen down in Wildwood and, on a weekend or something like that. So once this has been approved, then I will be consulting with them as far as setting up the guidelines and reporting back to city council.
But these individuals are on call 24 hours a day, correct?
Well, that is true, that is
They
true.
are. So, I mean, if it's at their house, I mean, it's, you know, parked on the side of the road, you get a couple of good things with that. You get, you know, city car placement around town, which, even though it's an OEM vehicle, it looks official. And then on top of that, you get, you know, quick response to situations. So,
And they respond to
Well,
calls.
Well, this is something that the department has only had one vehicle that was parked at the department head. Now, this is a little bit different scenario now that we have another vehicle on hand here, so, but what Councilman Notaro pointed out was that this individual's on call 24 hours, the vehicle is there. Obviously, if there was an emergency, he can get right there rather than have to get into his car and jump all the way down here to Northfield City Hall.
Does he live in Northfield?
Beg your pardon?
Does he live in Northfield?
Oh, yeah.
So,
they're,
you're
they're,
talking
they're,
6 miles, 6
they're
to 8
Northfield
miles.
volunteers, Barbara. Most of the volunteers that volunteer in Northfield are from Northfield, that's why they.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they go on, like,
Mhm.
it's just as
I
easy
mean-
for them to come here and get the vehicle, correct? I mean, it should, is there any reason why, I just think it should be on site, because it's a city vehicle.
All right, well, let me get back with them and just see what their needs are, and then I can report back to the council on that.
I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments about 178? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mrs. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz?
Yes.
Motion carries for the adoption of Resolution 178 of 2021.
Ordinance 11, please.
I'd like to make the motion to adopt ordinance 11-2021 to be read by title only.
Second?
You gonna read to us?
I live for it. Ordinance 11 of 2021 is amending Chapter 288 of the City of Northfield Legislative Code entitled Sewers This is the second reading. There will be a public hearing after which the matter will be considered for final adoption. Since introduction, the ordinance has been posted in full on the municipal website as well as in the lobby of City Hall. Any member of the public who requested a copy of the ordinance was provided with one free of charge in the office of the municipal clerk from the time of introduction up until the time of today's meeting. If approved this evening, it will be published a final time in the Press of Atlantic City on October 30th.
The public hearing, right? Public hearing for ordinance 11, 2021 is now open to any member of public who wishes to speak on ordinance 11, 2021 only. Anyone in Zoom land?
No, sir.
Being none, the public hearing for ordinance 11 is now closed. Seeing no one, the public hearing for ordinance is now 11. Any further questions or comments for council? Sorry. Seeing none, roll call?
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mrs. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz?
Yes.
Mr. Palestina? Motion carries for the adoption of ordinance 11 of 2021.
Payment of bills, please.
I'd like to make a motion for the payment of bills of $1,382,188.94.
Second motion.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
And I can't do that.
Sorry, never mind. Roll call, please.
Anything involving money has to be a full roll call vote.
Duly noted, thank you.
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Mrs. Madden?
Yes.
Mr. Notaro?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Utz?
Yes.
Mr. Palestina? Motion carries for payment of bills.
Meeting notices?
Meeting notices, our next general, or not, our general election is November 2nd, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Northfield Community School. Our next city council meeting is November 9th, starting with our work session at 6 p.m., regular session immediately following.
You can vote every day up till election day.
What's that?
You can vote every day up until election day. 101 Shore Road.
Have a motion to
Yeah,
adjourn?
thank you, Frank.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Looks like close,